Welcome to the Daily Drop on Pro Ball Daily. I'm Mike, and I am absolutely buzzing today because the sports world decided to just throw a statistical curveball at us that I'm not sure anyone saw coming.
And I'm Tara, and Mike is not kidding. If you thought you had a handle on the NBA, the NHL, or even some of the European leagues, think again. We've got teams pulling off statistical magic tricks, and others just falling off a cliff. But before we dive into the madness, let me just say, if you're not paying attention to Barcelona in La Liga, you are missing out on a serious title charge. That six-game winning streak is no joke.
We'll definitely get to Barcelona's dominance, but Tara, I've got to tease this up front. How do you explain an NBA team going from 55% shooting in February to an eye-popping 87% in March? That's not a hot streak. That's a video game glitch. We're talking about the Atlanta Hawks, and that number is going to spark some serious debate today.
Oh, Mike, you're going right for the jugular. And honestly, that's just one piece of the puzzle. The NHL has its own story of a team with a similar, though slightly less dramatic, surge and then a fall. This is why we tune in, folks, because the numbers don't lie, but they sure do raise some eyebrows. Let's jump right into the beautiful game, starting with MLS.
Absolutely. Kicking off in Major League Soccer, we've got a fascinating Power Index top 5. And frankly, I think a few of these teams are seriously overperforming, or at least surprising some pundits. Real Salt Lake sitting pretty at number 1 with 77.4 points. Now, I know they've been solid, but to be ahead of New England at 73 and then LAFC at 69.8, that's a statement.
It really is, Mike. RSL has been quietly efficient, but to see them at the top of the power index implies a consistency and a level of play that maybe hasn't garnered as many headlines. New England's always a contender, but LAFC, despite being third, I feel like they should be closer to RSL given their roster and historical performance. And then we have Charlotte FC at 4th and San Diego FC at 5th, two newer or at least less historically dominant teams making a strong showing.
San Diego FC is still a relatively new franchise. Their inclusion in the top 5 is really intriguing. It suggests they're building something special right out of the gate, perhaps defying expectations for expansion teams. But on the flip side of that coin, we have some serious trouble brewing for some traditional powerhouses. The LA Galaxy are on a 4-game losing streak. Philadelphia Union are on a 5-game losing streak, and Portland Timbers, another historically strong club, also on a 5-game skid.
And that's where the drama really is, Mike. 5-game losing streaks for both Philadelphia and Portland, those are teams with recent championship aspirations. What is going on in those locker rooms? Is it a crisis of confidence? Are coaches on the hot seat? It's not just a slump, it's a systemic breakdown. For the Galaxy, it's been a tough few years, but a 4-game losing streak indicates they're still struggling to find that consistent form. It's almost as if the league is flipping on its head with these rising teams and the old guard faltering.
You're right, Tara. It's a stark contrast. While the top is seeing some fresh faces and consistent performers like RSL, the bottom, or at least the struggling middle, is filled with teams that should be challenging. It's a testament to the league's growing parity, but for fans of those struggling clubs, it's gotta be a tough watch. MLS didn't have a standout stat today, which means the general play might be more balanced, but those losing streaks are definitely your headline for the league.
Agreed. From MLS, let's jet over to La Liga, where, as I teased earlier, Barcelona is absolutely tearing it up. Number 1 in the power index with 79.5 points, and their stat of the day says it all, a 6-game winning streak. They are serious title contenders, Mike, and after some struggles in recent years, this feels like a return to form for the Blaugrana.
A full-blown return, Tara. 6 straight wins in a league as competitive as La Liga? That's championship form right there. They're playing with confidence, the attack looks lethal, and their defense is holding firm. But what really grabs my attention in this Power Index top 5 is who else is up there. Getafe at number 2 with 59.9 points, Mallorca at 3, Alaves at 4, and Villarreal at 5. No Real Madrid? No Atletico Madrid? That is a shocking shakeup for the Spanish top flight.
It's absolutely wild, Mike. Getafe, Mallorca, Alaves, these are typically mid-table teams, battling it out for European spots at best, not sitting in the top 4 of the power index. It suggests a level of consistency and upset potential against the bigger clubs that we haven't seen in a while. While Barcelona is doing their thing at the top, the rest of the league is proving to be incredibly unpredictable. It almost makes you wonder if the traditional giants are having an off-season or if these smaller clubs have truly elevated their game.
I think it's a bit of both, but mostly the latter. These teams are disciplined, they're hard to beat, and they're picking up points where they're not always expected. It makes every matchup exciting. And then we have Sevilla, another historically strong club, on a 5-game losing streak. Similar to MLS, the old guard is struggling while new challengers rise. Sevilla needs to figure things out quickly, or they'll be staring down a relegation battle instead of challenging for Europe.
Absolutely, Mike. It's a league of extreme contrast right now. Barcelona is soaring, Getafe and company are defying expectations, and then Sevilla is in a tailspin. It's a fantastic narrative for the season, and it makes you wonder if we're going to see a truly unexpected finish outside of the top spot.
Let's transition to the hardwood, because the NBA data today is it's a roller coaster. New York Knicks at number 1 in the power index with 73 points, San Antonio Spurs at 2 with 69.7, Charlotte Hornets at 3 with 69.4. Tara, if you had told me those 3 teams would be leading the power index at any point this season, I'd have called you crazy.
You would have, and I might have called myself crazy for even suggesting it. Mike, the Knicks at number 1 is a testament to consistency and grit, especially under Coach Thibodeau. They've built something special. But the Spurs at 2? Victor Wembanyama is obviously phenomenal, but for the team to be number 2 in the power index already, that's an incredible leap. And the Hornets, traditionally a lottery team, also cracking the top 3? This is not the NBA we expected. Denver and OKC are in the top 5, as expected, but that top 3 is a shocker.
A complete shocker. It implies either incredible overperformance, a very strong stretch of games, or perhaps the power index is factoring in something specific about their recent play that's just off the charts. We saw the Golden State Warriors beat the Clippers 126-121, a high-scoring affair as always, and the Magic fell to the Sixers 97-109. Those scores are pretty standard, but the real story, the absolute blockbuster, is what the Atlanta Hawks are doing.
Oh, here we go, Mike. The stat of the day, and it's a head-scratcher. The Atlanta Hawks shot 87% in March 2026. That's a massive plus 17.9 versus their season baseline over 15 games. But it gets even crazier because they were at 55% in February, which was minus 14.2 versus their season baseline. What in the world happened between February and March in Atlanta?
I have no idea, Tara. It defies all logic. To go from a terrible shooting month at 55% to an almost perfect 87%? Are we talking about some kind of magic potion? A new shooting coach who performed miracles? Or is it simply the most unsustainable hot streak in the history of professional basketball? This is the kind of swing that gets GMs fired or coaches hired. If they can sustain even 70-75% of that March magic, they're suddenly a top-tier contender. But 87%? That just screams statistical anomaly.
It's an anomaly that has to be investigated. It's not just a few good games, it's an entire month of near perfection from the field. And then contrast that with the Brooklyn Nets, who shot a dismal 17% in February. That's minus 11.1 versus their season baseline. From one extreme to the other in the same league. February was a strange month for shooting percentages, apparently. The Nets number is just as shocking in its own way as the Hawks' March surge.
Absolutely. The Nets' performance is just as perplexing. 17% shooting for a whole month? You can't even score in the teens consistently with that kind of efficiency. It means they were bricking everything. Their offensive strategy must have been completely broken, or they just ran into an unlucky spill that lasted an entire month. These are the kind of trends that define seasons for these teams. The Hawks have to bottle whatever they found in March, and the Nets have to forget February ever happened.
Forget it. Burn the tapes. Moving on to the ice, the NHL has some similar wild swings. The Vegas Golden Knights are number 1 in the power index, which isn't a huge surprise. They're consistently a strong team. But then we have the Utah Mammoth at number 2. That's a huge jump for a team that's still relatively new to the NHL landscape. They're making a serious statement.
They really are, Tara. Utah at 2 with 69.7 points, ahead of the Carolina Hurricanes at 3 and the Ottawa Senators at 4. That's a significant power shift. It suggests the Mammoth are building something very competitive very quickly. Then we have the Florida Panthers rounding out the top 5. In terms of recent scores, we saw Dallas edge Buffalo 4-3, Chicago roll over San Jose 5-2, and then the Detroit Red Wings got absolutely clubbered by the Florida Panthers 8-1. That's a huge statement win for the Panthers, especially as they sit in the Power Index top 5.
It really is. That 8-1 victory over Detroit tells you the Panthers are for real and flexing their offensive muscle. But let's get to the real head-turner in the NHL, another team with a wild statistical swing, the Boston Bruins. Their stat of the day shows they went 91% in January 2026, a staggering plus 30.4 from their season baseline. Mike, 91%? What does that even mean? Is that their shooting percentage, their win percentage in January? That's an insane number.
It has to be some form of efficiency or win percentage indicator, Tara. If it's shooting percentage, that's impossible. But a 91% win rate in January, that's a dominant month. They were virtually unbeatable. Plus 30.4 from their season baseline suggests they were playing at an elite championship caliber level. But then the trend shows a drop-off to 54% in March, which is minus 10.4 versus their season baseline. So the Bruins went from being historically great in January to just above average in March.
It's another case of what happened. Was it injuries, a brutal schedule, or did they just run out of gas after an unsustainable hot streak? That's a massive drop, from almost perfect to just over half their games. That kind of inconsistency could cost